Well, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to a joyful occasion celebrating the excellent achievements of our graduates, who actually, unusually for these celebrations, start out as graduates. Normally they're graduands in the course of an hour. I magically turn them into graduates of Strathclyde, but they're already that. We have them before us, and we have many others at the back here on the stage with us, so it's wonderful to see the turnout and to see so many of you, friends, family and supporters. We've been waiting a long time for the joy of all of this, but we were determined as an institution to make sure that we gave you the opportunity to celebrate the great achievements of those that you're here to support. And today is the first day of a programme of 22 graduations. We contacted almost 8,500 students who had, of course, become Strathclyde graduates over the course of 2020-21, but for reasons that we know about and I'll make reference to later on, they couldn't graduate. But here we are today. Still being cautious, and thank you all very much for observing the cautious requirements to be together in such close proximity. But most importantly, we're here to really have a great time. And for those of you that haven't come to Glasgow that often, the weather is always like this. particularly on a Strathclyde celebration day. But later on, when we start the ceremony, our graduates will now come up to be formally capped, but they missed out on. And they'll not kneel on this. I'm always interested in this bit of furniture. This is to help me get a wee bit of social distancing. This kneeler has I'm an engineer, engineering approximations, had about 160,000 knees on it, including me 3 times for a bachelor's degree in 78, a master's degree in 84 and a PhD in 1990, so I'm quite attached to this bit of furniture. But we've modernised the process. You don't need to kneel on this. You'll simply come across the stage and I'll cap you, which is a proper and formal recognition, a process that goes all the way back to the Enlightenment period. So in many ways we're connecting to the history of the institution, and that's a good thing. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, graduates of Strathclyde, please relax and enjoy. And should also say, whilst you're in this beautifully dressed hall, the Barony Hall is one of the jewels in the crown of the Strathclyde estate. You're here to enjoy yourselves, so don't feel constrained when those that you're here to support come onto the stage. Feel free to let them know that you're here. So that'll be great. So with that, colleagues, I'll formally declare this celebration opened, and I'll invite Suzanne Boyle, who's Associate Dean at the Engineering Faculty, to introduce the various graduates. Thank you very much.
Principal and Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the University and by the authority of Senate, I present to you these students. For the degree of Master of Science in Advanced Mechanical Engineering, Ross James Hamilton. Neil Thompson Mitchell. In Advanced Mechanical Engineering with Aerospace, Kieran Duncan. Andrew Michael Ian Jack. Magdalena Julia Kraus. John James Keith Rigby. Gavin Stewart Russell. In Sustainable Engineering, Renewable Energy Systems and the Environment, Ewan Alexander Cutting. Callum McKeown. Michael Newton. James Christopher Robinson. For the degree of Master of Engineering in Aeromechanical Engineering, Zaryab Afzal. Jonathan Barley. Tony Barr. Ewan Alexander Burrs. James Ross Black. Ian Alexander Katanak. William Stephen Kavanagh. Jason Chunhei Cheng. Christopher Cochran. Callum Cook. Lewis John Creed. Gregor Cunningham. Lee Curran. Nathaniel Cutler. Callum Francis Farquharson Deans. Abdurrahman Desai. Matthew Dickey. Lewis Donnelly. James Alexander Duffy. Tom Duncan. Findlay Alexander Clark Easton. Oren Fraser. Robert Andrew Gallagher. Julie Kate Graham. Paul Jamie Hadfield. Waleed Hafez. Matthew David Hastings. Freya Catherine Elizabeth Hoppe. Michael Howes. Scott Alexander Hines. Kieran Gareth Gerald Jenkins. Emma Elizabeth Johnston. Ewan Johnston. Simon Kelly. Paul Kerr. Bilal Khan. Sam Rees-Kirk. Jamie Lindsay. Ross William Little. Nien Liu. Andrew Linus. Magnus Mackay. Lorna Mahaffey. Angus McAllister. Ian Ross MacDonald. Ross McFarlane. Peter McGuinness. Connor McGowan. Orla Rachel McGowan. Matthew McKenzie. Kerr Robinson McMaster. Lucas Melikar. Gareth Alexander Laird Mitchell. Lewis Mitchell. Robbie John Fitzpatrick Monaghan. Brina Morrison. Stephen Munn. Arman Naeem. Patrick Oliphant. Callum Park. Jonathan Proctor. Michael Sutherland Rendell. Fraser Andrew Robertson. Jacob Roger. Aidan Euhine Sheck. Dylan John Andrew Spear. Alistair Douglas Stables. Craig Stevenson. Morgan Elizabeth Stewart. Rory James Summers. Ian Sword. Martin Topping. Lewis Samuel Wallace. Scott Young. Ahis Zayara. In mechanical engineering, Nicola Aird. Robbie Paul Anderson. Mohammed Hamza Idris Arif. Ryan Michael Baer. Ewan Eric Bonham. Declan Stephen Brannigan. Hok Him Chan. Jack Christie. Joseph Baldessari Clark. Stuart Andrew Clark. Callum Stuart Clayton. Ross Cleland. Thomas Cooper. Rory Hugh Cormack. Lewis Alexander Craig. James Doby. Ronan Doyle. Jack Carson Forrest. Frank Stewart French. Reese Craig Gibb. David Murray Gibson. Alistair Cross Gilmore. Neil William Gordon. Stuart Gray. Callum James Harker. Jacob Jonathan Holmes. Reese Anthony Houston. Jake Kilcoyne. Benjamin Robertson Barclay Kirkland. Connor Paul Knight. Megan Elizabeth Knight. Milena Kotlobi. Gurveer Kundi. Elsa Victoria Larson. Iona Mary Louise MacDonald. Rory Neil McFarlane. Niall McKinnon. Callum McIntosh. Lewis Stephen McBride. Douglas James McGarrity. Paul McGuinness. John Andrew McKenna. Ewan McLaughlin. Jack McLean. Jack Meiklejohn. Matthew John Miller. Ewan Mark Milligan. Anna Moffat. Alex J. Mowat. Jack Alexander Charles Owens. Craig Martin Peacock. Lachlan Crawford Peters. Adam Richard Taylor Porteous. Alistair Ray. Stuart Francis Ray. Tom Reed. Ian Matthew Riley. Gavin Rogers. Callum James Sharp. Craig Sinkins. Charlie Smith. Roman Smith. Shelby McNiven Sprott. Gary Stewart. Thomas Stewart Delavane. Y. Yan Rachel Tang. Marcus Ian Tennant. Findlay Watson. Robert Whitehead. Colette Helen Whitson. Alexander Wiklinski. Aidan Woods. Madison Kirsty Wood. In mechanical engineering with aeronautics, Lewis David Alexander. Scott James Douglas Bell. Matthew James Leach Davidson. Ryan Stephen Devine. Ailey Marie Docherty. Aidan Patrick Gallagher. George Alexander Greenlee. Fraser Hemming. David Lowe. Ailey McPherson. Catherine Louise Meaden. Michael Thomas O'Neill. Yash Nitin Parulekar. Craig Roddick. Holly Schneeberger. Ailey Lorna Seville. Zainadine Siddiqui. Gregor Compton Simpson. Rory Thomas Stewart. Andrew Scott Stromer Peoples. Ian Alexander Waddle. Josh Williams. In mechanical engineering with financial management, Liam Patrick Donnelly. Andrew England. Hannah Houston. Stephen Kilmurray. Cameron Robert James Lee. Rumesh Madhushan Ratnayake. In mechanical engineering with international study, Morna Bailey. Samuel Horace Beard. Emily Catherine Eady. Samuel Harry James Graucott. Liam Hutchian. Ebitehaj Jamshid. William David McRae. Ewan Ian McPhail McCluckie. Cameron James McFarlane. Callum Graham McGuigan. Liam McWilliams. Hannah Rose Mitchell. John David Richardson. Ailey Rose Smythe. David Douglas Stewart. Owen Summers. In mechanical engineering with materials engineering, Lewis Andrew Milne. For the degree of Bachelor of Engineering in Aeromechanical Engineering, Daniel Griffiths.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give the classes of 2020 and 21 a big round of applause. As a father of three, I often wondered that the joy in the celebration is that these kids are now off the payroll. I'm not quite sure, but all doing extremely well. So once again, Strathclyde graduates, ladies and gentlemen, let me reiterate our warm welcome to this wonderful ceremony and a great occasion. It's a day that none of you will forget, indeed a day that some of you have been waiting almost 2 years for. It recognises, of course, through today, the years of hard work that you put in to earn your degrees. And now at last, here you are in the Barony Hall. You're here to celebrate your achievements and doing that in front of your friends, your families, your supporters, and indeed your fellow graduates. So today we welcome visitors from all over Scotland, from across the UK, and of course, from a wonderful international community tour. We're delighted to see you all here to join in the celebrations. So almost 2 years ago to the week, and we can remember, it's funny how COVID changes the elasticity. Sometimes it feels like a long time, sometimes it feels like no time at all. But COVID-19 changed all of our lives, and that touched us personally and professionally, and had a profound effect on the university. Like any large institutions, it was a challenge. It changed the way in which we work, the way in which we teach and learn. As many of you will remember, the pivot to digital and blended learning that was often talked about, but this university, I have to say, delivered in an exemplary fashion. And we had to continue to conduct our research. Any given time, we run a programme of about £250 million worth of research and about 2,000 researchers, so managing that process was difficult at all. And of course, ultimately, as we're here today, it prevented us from celebrating your graduation in person, but we're making up for that today. Everyone at Strathclyde has worked hard. They've worked in a committed and professional way, almost a vocational commitment over the past 24 months to keep, first and foremost, our staff and our students and their well-being safe and keep them healthy, and make sure, as alongside that, that the student experience and the ability for our staff to keep delivering against their own professional commitments, make that effective. And we've continued to deliver high-quality education and student experience, maintaining our groundbreaking research, and I'll say a little bit about that shortly, and operating a very large and complex campus. You're in this wonderful hall, but we've got some 30 other buildings, some of them very big indeed, up to 30,000 or more square metres, and the staff worked tirelessly to make sure that the integrity of the estate was maintained. So I've been hugely impressed and in many ways humbled by our staff and students and how they've responded and adapted to the challenges. But of course, we were determined to make sure that our graduates had the experience that you're enjoying today. That's only fair. It's part of your overall Strathclyde journey. And when the opportunity arose, as we have now, we wanted to celebrate the award of your degrees because undoubtedly, and be sure that this is a highlight in the academic career, and we didn't want to let that go unacknowledged. As I mentioned earlier, we reached out to over 8,000 graduates who didn't have the pleasure of being in ceremonies like this. And we're delighted that over half of them will be working with us and coming back here with their friends and families to join in everything that we can offer them. And we should acknowledge, of course, and it's wonderful to see you all thriving and looking well and with smiles on your faces, because all of you faced a unique challenge brought about by the coronavirus pandemic. And I would confidently suggest that you represent a very special cohort of students, and that the classes of 2020 and 2021 will always be seen as Strathclyde vintage years, and I mean that. So to all of you, very well done. You faced disruption to the way you had to learn, to your social lives, which is a very important part of your life here as a Strathclyde student, and to how you sat your examinations. And what's more, you've now gone out into the world of work, starting your careers at a time of unprecedented challenge and change. But in the face of all of this, you've shown courage, determination, resilience, and adaptability. And of course, part of your subsequent successes, that's been down to you being Strathclyders at heart. And that means something to us. Strathclyde is distinct. We make a particular commitment. And this motto of ours about useful learning has really had a fantastic platform for us to build on over the past couple of years, something we've been committed to for over 220 years. Strathclyde began in 1796 as Anderson's institution, the only Scottish institution to be established during the Scottish Enlightenment, a very distinctive character. That time of challenge, of opportunity, of ambition, of courage to challenge the norm. We take those same principles into the 21st century. And of course, John Anderson was a founder, but in 1964 we got a royal charter. We're a couple of years away from celebrating our Diamond Jubilee. That was led by a hero of mine, Sir Sam Curran, who I graduated with, just as you've done. Sam capped me for my first degree. And you're really being part of the history today, with that heritage. And as you forge now your new careers, the university's deeply set values of being people-oriented, innovative, collaborative, ambitious, and bold. That's about risk-taking, it's about making a difference. All of that will hold you in good stead. And in a short while, when we end the ceremony today, the stage party will process down the aisle. Our graduates will follow me, as will hopefully the families and supporters. That is a signal that in that academic procession, you're no longer students. You haven't been students for some time now, but you are now members of our academic community, and one that numbers over 180,000 Strathclyders out there in the world making a difference. And boy, do we need this new generation of leaders. When we see the disaster and the horrors that are unfolding in Ukraine just now, it causes us to bring thought to the ethical, moral, and accountable behaviour of leadership. So my great hope is that all of you, in your various ways, whether you're working in industry or business or the third sector, and some of you may move into parts of government, take forward that burning beacon of expectation of doing the right thing the right way. Because the world is full just now of things being done badly and for the wrong reasons, and we need to continue to challenge that. Over the past 3 weeks, and we're signalling solidarity with our friends and colleagues in Ukraine, we've flown the flag of Ukraine over our campus. We've lit up our buildings to recognise that we need to signal to them that they're not forgotten. And over the past week in particular, we've been working with the sector, with the Scottish and UK government to put in more practical measures of support. And I'm very proud of our student union. Our student president is here with us today as well, where they immediately galvanised the students' commitment to make a difference. So remember, with all of that, you're leaving today with a Strathclyde degree, but leave, please, also with an expectation that you're a global citizen and you have the power to change things. And there's small things that can be done, but in aggregate, with the excellence that we have in the room today, you really can make a difference. And you're following in the footsteps of some fantastic individuals, some historical, like the explorer and missionary David Livingstone, who was at Anderson's institution, the inventor of television. John Logie Baird did his experimental work in the Royal College here, and I'm proud to say I'm still in touch with his son, who's an elderly gentleman now in Canada, but we're still working towards a centenary celebration to recognise his contributions in a couple of years' time. James Blythe, the first individual to demonstrate the production of electricity by connecting a generator to a wind turbine. And of course, more contemporary alumni of Strathclyde, Dame Eilish Angelini, Baroness Helen Liddell, Baroness Annabel Goldie, Jim McCall, Sir Brian Suter, Sir Tom Hunter, to name but a few. So this army of talent that we have in the room today is joining an army of historical talent and contemporary business and public sector leaders. Take encouragement and inspiration from their personal and professional achievements and set your sights high. Please do that. Aim high, be confident, take the courage of your convictions, the excellence of your education to make a real difference, regardless of the career path that you've chosen. And your friends, family and supporters and your colleagues are here with you today. They are rightly proud of all that you've achieved, and they will, of course, continue to support you in your future success. So, to my fellow Strathclyders and to my colleagues on the stage, let's express our collective gratitude to parents, to friends, to families and supporters for everything that they've done in the journey so far for all of the graduates today. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, although it's some time since you've been in a lecture theatre or a lab, all of our graduates have been helped by our wonderful academic and support staff who have worked hard to provide you with a first-class education and outstanding student experience, and for whom, genuinely, your success is their reward. So let me invite everyone else in the hall to join me in saying a big thank you to our academic colleagues. And you'll be pleased to know that your faculty continues to thrive. And I had so much I could have shared with you, but I'm going to have to truncate to a few headlines. Over the past couple of years, Strathclyde's efforts in partnership with industry and businesses created the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation District, Scotland, out at Glasgow Airport, as we'll start to get mobile again. If you look to the northwest of the runway, you'll see a couple of enormous buildings sprung out of the ground already. One with a purple serrated roof, you may have spotted it already. Have a look. That's the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland, pursuing Industry 4.0 activities, robotics, AI, data analytics, automation of manufacturing processes, advanced materials, and a whole range of industries, from energy through automotive industries to aerospace in particular. That represents a £200 million investment. Strathclyde driving over £1 billion of gross value add into the Scottish economy, creating around 4,000 jobs, connecting not just to Renfrewshire, but to the west of Scotland generally, with partners such as Rolls-Royce, Boeing, and many others. And here in the city centre, we have the Glasgow City Innovation District that we've catalysed. Down off George Street, our Technology and Innovation Centre, Scotland's first innovation district that has set out Scotland's stall, as it were, to the world in terms of innovation, technology, engineering and science, and indeed through our business school and our humanities and social sciences. Down there, we're working in the next generation of low-carbon energy technologies, pharmaceutical manufacturing, 5 and 6G communications, space tech. Now, who knew this? In Glasgow, we have the largest satellite manufacturing capability outside California, here and around this city. We're perhaps a wee bit shy about sharing the great achievements of this wonderful city in Scotland, and Strathclyde working alongside our industrial partners also in medtech, quantum technology and fintech, and subject to a process we're going through of approval with our court members, our governing body, we'll look to invest another £150 million down there between Ingram Street, High Street and George Street. Strathclyde doing what it does best, useful learning. And of course, sustainability is key. Some of you may have picked up, there was a programme called ScotWind that was launched a month or so ago. Some 20 gigawatts of offshore wind to be built around the shores of Scotland. Strathclyde's been in the middle of that, and we're now anticipating recycling of blades, advanced materials, and creating the subsurface and service industry that we once did with the oil and gas industry, and now we need to move forward into that low-carbon future. And we get recognitions for this, which we appreciate. A fortnight ago, myself and our Chancellor, Lord Robert Smith, whom you'll know by reputation, were in London at St James's Palace receiving a Queen's Anniversary Prize on behalf of the university. It's part of the National Honours System for what we do in advanced manufacturing. And that's a consecutive time that we've won it, because 2 years ago we won it for energy innovation. So this is recognition of your university, of our university, for making a difference. And lots more going on. I mean, as well as being on land, sea and air, we're also in space. For those of you that are in mechanical engineering, you may actually have been taught by Professor Max Vasily. Max is a world leader in protecting the planet from space debris, and we won a multi-million-pound project recently announced by the UK Science and Innovation Minister, George Freeman, because I understand, being no expert myself, orbital congestion is a big issue. Space debris providing global challenges facing the space sector, which is another new pioneer market opportunity. And I share this with you simply because I was provided the data, but there are currently an estimated 330 million pieces of space debris shooting around the planet, around 36,000 objects bigger than 10 centimetres, including bits of old satellites, spent rocket bodies, and even tools. So Max and his team working out means by which we can capture the debris, make it safe, detect it. So I could go on, but I won't. The faculty and the university at large is doing well. So that's further context for all of you as Strathclyde alumni. Your success and our success is due to the efforts of our staff, our researchers and our students who are delivering the vision of Strathclyde as a leading international technological university that's socially progressive. And what does that mean? There's a humility and a modesty about this place that means that we're connected to the communities that we are engaged with. And that also means widening access to a Strathclyde education. I was the first in my family to go to university here, as it happens, in 1978. As a very talented 7-year-old boy, I have to say, it was not usual for getting youngsters like that into university. But my father and my two brothers worked in the shipyards in the Clyde, and I came here, always was made to feel welcome, although in some trepidation I made that journey. And still, we admitted about 1,300 youngsters from the lowest 2 quintiles of challenge socioeconomic in Glasgow. Very proud of that. Not proud in their own part, but pride in them, that they have the courage, the convictions, the family support, and where we can, financial support to get them in here, keep them in here, and then launch them in their degrees, and that will continue to be the case. We're 10 years ahead already of the Scottish objectives for the Widening Access Programme. So, many of you, in fact probably all of you, are now pursuing your careers in one way or another, or indeed further studies, and you've set your sights on that. So I hope the past 2 years have been productive and successful for you. And it's important that we acknowledge that you've graduated from a university at a time when the world needs all the knowledge, skills, passion and commitment that can muster from people like you to tackle major challenges, including, of course, climate emergency. As COP26 was here, we were very proud. It showcased our city as well as the institutions in it. Urgent action is required, and COP26 set out the agenda for action, for a laser-like focus, a committed investment to actually change the journey of decarbonisation to success and delivery. And our university, of course, is working across all of our faculties, not least engineering, whether it's technological, policy, scientific, economic or social challenges. We're trying to produce the people that will make a difference, such as you in the room today, or the ideas and the outputs of research, innovating and delivering solutions that are core to Strathclyde's mission. I had the privilege of welcoming former President Barack Obama onto our campus during COP26. A delightful man, an inspirational man, and a very generous man with his time and his discussions. In fact, Ben Rapson, our student president, and I welcomed him into the buildings where he was visiting. He was convening a round table with highly active, highly motivated and highly successful young people that were trying to make a difference. He was here for about 3 hours convening that. That wasn't just a flying visit. And as he left the building, it's our learning and teaching building, for those that remember the Colville building, he stood in the steps to You can't keep a secret with social media. He arrived quietly, but within an hour we had about 600 people outside waiting to see him. As he left, he stood in the steps, turned round to the crowd and said 2 words: get active. And I say that to all of you. Get active, not only in your careers, but in the difference that you can make, in the people's lives that you can touch, and the additional things that you can do vocationally. That enriches you, and it makes a difference to amplifying what you can bring as a result of your education. It was a rallying call that many of us can relate to, and one that encapsulates the can-do attitude of Strathclyde and Strathclyders. During the 2 weeks of COP26, I spent most days down in the Blue Zone. I had the privilege of having access to many of these meetings and access to some incredibly inspiring people. And I was able to meet people like John Kerry, Kwasi Kwarteng, and Michael Bloomberg, a fellow electrical engineers, it turned out. That was quite an interesting thing for me to find out. So the world truly came to Glasgow, and Strathclyde University was on the visit schedule. So we're an institution that's recognised as having freedom of thought as a core value, an institution exemplified by tolerance and inclusivity, and one which seeks to play a significant role in shaping the world we live in, the world that you need to reshape and challenge leadership currently for some of the wrong-headed directions of travel. And we do that through teaching, research, and most importantly, through all of you. So, let me move to a conclusion. As we hope now that you're taking the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience that you gained here at Strathclyde, play your part to bring people together, find common ground and greater humanity, to work together to build a brighter future, demonstrating Strathclyde's socially progressive values and their ethos of tolerance, pluralism, and a desire to make a positive difference. You can champion knowledge, you can address social injustice, and question unacceptable behaviours and actions, including by those in authority. And we hope that you'll continue, of course, to stay in touch with us. It feels very much like a family gathering today. It's a big party, I have to say, but it's great to have you back here. And we'll soon have a reception to have a chance to speak to you. And we want you to be involved in our journey and help us support the existing Strathclyders and those that are yet to come. Alumni are very important of our extended reach, so stay in touch with us. Let us know what you can do and help us for those that follow in your wake. But now, today, of course, is a time of celebration. Celebrate your achievements with your friends and loved ones. And on behalf of Strathclyde University, finally, let me say congratulations once again to each and every one of you. I wish you every success in the future. Well done, and please enjoy the rest of this very special day. Thank you very much. So, because the sun's splitting the rocks outside, so we can, as I said earlier, we're going to, once I close the ceremony, we're going to process down the hall. We'll go outside, and then we're going to process to the Learning and Teaching building that I mentioned already, where we have untold goodies for you, refreshments and canopies and goodness knows what else. More importantly, we have conversation waiting for you as well. So let me conclude by saying once again to our graduates before me and here on the stage, we are exceptionally proud of you. You represent the very best of what Strathclyde's about, and I'm sure your friends, family and supporters love basking in the success that you've achieved. So, ladies and gentlemen, at that point I will now close this celebration. Thank you very much, and I'll ask you to be upstanding. Thank you very much.